We have team members from Nearpod. Brittany Magnan is here with us from Miami, Florida. She has a BA in K-12 Education and Hispanic Studies. She joined Nearpod as the content manager to create the ever-growing online store of ready-to-use lessons. She also started the authors program to give educators the opportunity to share their lessons with the rest of the Nearpod community. And I see that Josh Tappan has also joined us. He is the community manager for Nearpod. He is joining us from San Francisco, California. Prior to joining the Nearpod team, he was a middle school science teacher in Atlanta, Georgia. He's excited to help teachers create engaging and exciting learning experiences for their students. So they'll be able to assist us with any technical difficulties that we have during the broadcast and any questions that you may have after Diane's presentation. If you have any questions during the presentation, if you scroll below the live streaming video, you'll see a spot where you can enter those questions, and we'll answer those throughout the presentation. So I'm going to turn the presentation over to Diane, who's going to teach us how we can use Nearpod in our classroom.
Thanks, Jean. Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. We are broadcasting live, very exciting. We are located in Hillsborough, New Jersey. And to give you an idea, Hillsborough is a medium-sized district located in central New Jersey. As Jean mentioned, I am a math teacher, but I'm also a turnkey trainer. And today what we want to do is share our experiences with one of our favorite apps of all time, Nearpod. We really enjoy using Nearpod in our classes because it offers a variety of interactive features. Our students love it because they play a major role in the lesson. Instead of telling you about Nearpod, we thought it would be better if you experience Nearpod for yourself. So if you haven't done so, we're going to try and present a Nearpod in addition to our broadcast. If you haven't downloaded the Nearpod app, go ahead and do that on a second device. You can also open a second screen and download that. And then we're going to ask that you, once you're in, join session XFSWA. That's XFSWA. It is located, I believe, on the banner below. It's a little pixelated, so that's XFSWA. And that's our session that we'll be running. I will be screen sharing the teacher view. So when you're looking at our broadcast, you're going to actually see what the teacher sees. If you do have a second device, we'll be pushing out slides, so you'll get an opportunity to experience it as a student. So I'm going to be going to screen share. Jean, take it away.
So one of the great things about Nearpod is that it really is a fabulous way of engaging all of the students in the classroom, and they all become an active participant in the presentation that you're showing. It can be used for both classwork as an instructional tool. It can also be used as an assessment tool.
Okay, I think we're ready. So at this time, up on the screen, you'll notice that it says share this pin with your audience, and that's exactly what we'd like you to do, is download that Nearpod app and join session XFSWA. I'm going to close that out, and simply by swiping or advancing the slide, you will be pushing out the next slide to the students. And I see we have a class full of students, which is perfect. At this time, if you can go ahead, put in your name, and also under other, if you can take a second to give us the location you are at, so we have an idea just where we're sending this out to. Once you hit send, you should get a thank you, which is always an indicator that Nearpod has received your submission. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to advance to the next slide. If you haven't joined yet, it's okay. You can do it at any time because Nearpod knows this, that if you do have students coming late to class, they can join a session, quickly log in or put their name in, and then the next slide will take them directly to where the rest of the class is. So normally when I start a Nearpod, I like to begin my presentations with a question or a quick survey. It's an easy way to pre-assess and get the students quickly involved in the lesson. So I thought it would be interesting to see how we weighed in on the topic of technology in the classroom. Michelle Harvin wrote an article in EdTech Times about the top 5 problems with technology today. So let's take a moment to select what you feel is most concerning. And once you have made your selection, hit send. Now you can see on the teacher view that the responses are coming in. Again, this is not something that you would project on the screen. This is for your information only. The students will get the information, however, once you decide to share it with them. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to the share, and up on your device it should come up so that the students can see exactly how the participants answered. I also thought it would be interesting just to take a break from our presentation and go back to our panelists, because it is a very interesting topic, and we all have some concerns about using technology in the classroom. So I'm going to start with Jean, and then we'll go to our panelists with Brittany and Josh and see what they think. What is your biggest concern in the classroom?
I selected the Band-Aid. I think that putting thoughtful planning into using technology in the classroom is always a concern. It's very easy for teachers just to say, I use technology because I had the kids take out their device, they used an app, and it's not being used thoughtfully. So I think that's one of my biggest concerns.
Okay. Brittany, can you tell us what you think?
So I choose the crutch. As we know, with the way the digital age is coming along, students and children are starting to let the internet think for them. So it's the beautiful thing about Nearpod is you can integrate super challenging skills, everything like that, super challenging activities, so that although you're connected to the internet, the children are still using their own mind to do the work.
Okay, thanks.
Putting digital and analog helps as well, to have partially digital, partially in present class.
And I actually selected the same answer as Jean, but I'll address a different answer to change it up a bit. I see that a lot of people put the old timer. You know, one thing we've heard from other teachers is that Nearpod has been kind of a good transition out of maybe your old style of teaching and integrating technology into the classroom. It's super easy to take old lessons or old materials, convert them to Nearpods, and then add an interactive activity to kind of wade in instead of dive off the deep end into technology integration.
Okay. And if my selection were chosen, it would be the Facebook, because, well, simply, I have 3 teenagers at home, and I watch them as they do homework, and it's amazing. They think they're multitasking, and really what they're doing is social networking, and they're constantly going back and forth. And that's exactly my concern, that if they have devices in the classroom and you're running a presentation, are they truly engaged and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing? And that's exactly why one of the things I love most about Nearpod is how you can monitor whether or not they're involved. So I'm going to go back to the screen sharing of what the teacher is seeing. And you'll notice that in the, there we go, upper left-hand corner of the screen, there is a silhouette, and it has a number that indicates just how many participants are active in the session. If at any point in your lesson the silhouette turns red, it's an indicator that someone's left the session. So you can open it up and check the student list. Green means they're in, and red means they're out. So how does Nearpod work exactly? Pushing out to the next slide. First, you will either create or download a lesson from the content store. Next, you'll launch the presentations by having students join the session with a pin. Once in the session, students participate in surveys or quizzes, watch movies, view slideshows, really any content that you wish to include. Students then send responses to you on a teacher's device, and you can use that to assess student understanding and provide immediate and individualized feedback simply by clicking share. Of course, the entire session is available in report form after it's ended. You can use Nearpod in two different modes, synchronized or self-paced. We're currently using the synchronized or live version. We've gotten pretty clever with how we can use Nearpod in both modes. In fact, last month I was attending the NCTM conference in Boston, which I meant I had to write sub-plans for 2 days. Well, we know what sub-plans are like. First of all, it's very time-consuming, and you never know exactly if the sub's going to be able to carry and execute the plans. So what I did this time was that I left a Nearpod homework assignment, and the students came in, they simply sat down, got out their devices, logged on, and they joined the session. And then later that night from my hotel room, I was actually able to see who went on, how they did, and get that feedback. Here is another example of how teachers have been rather creative with Nearpod. This is from the Nearpod blog, and these teachers thought, well, neither snow nor rain nor sleet can stop a great teacher. I love that headline. And these teachers ran a broadcast live with their students during one of the snow days. But what happens if the students can come to class but the teacher can't? Well, that's what happened to me. A few months ago I had knee surgery, so I was unable to go to school, and I wanted to find a way to connect with the students. So you may have heard of flipping the classroom. I call this flipping the teacher. So what I did was that I ran a Nearpod presentation from my home during a Google Hangout with my students. I was able to deliver instruction from my home office and interact with the students. I was also able to watch the responses in real time as they submitted their work. It was really a fun way to connect with the students. And Jean and I were talking about this, and we thought this would be good too for students maybe who are homesick and they're not quite well enough to come to school, but they can participate in a session. So that's another option that you have. So really, there have been some very clever and creative ways of using Nearpod beyond the traditional way. Of course, there are a variety of interactive features available on Nearpod. And if you're interested in using your own presentations, perhaps you have PowerPoints or Keynotes or Google presentations, you can actually install a Nearpodize this extension, a Google Chrome add-on, and what that does is it allows you to upload what you already have created, and then you can just expand on there with the Nearpod features. Speaking of features, probably my favorite feature of all time is the Draw. When using this feature, students can use drawing tools to complete the activity. So what I'd like you to do now is I'd like you to take a moment to complete the question and send it when you've answered the question. Again, as you're looking at the broadcast, you're seeing the teacher's dashboard. So this is a great indicator of how Nearpod works. The students are now answering the question, and I'm going to be able to see, just by looking at my screen, how everyone is answering. So if you could, at this time, again, just submit that answer and bring it up.
We'll wait a couple of minutes. I see that there is a delay between what is being broadcasted and our presentation. So what you're seeing on your second device might be off a little bit. But if you look on your computer screen, you'll see that there are some answer choices that are coming up.
And one thing I would like to have you keep in mind when you're doing draws, you may want to tell the students not to write their names on the canvas. I do this because when I'm pushing out examples of student work to the devices, I will intentionally look for mistakes and answers that may have some misconceptions, because my students know that we value mistakes and they are opportunities for our brain to grow. It also engages the students in discourse and in math The standards for mathematical practices are very important, and this includes reasoning, giving proof, and communicating. So it really is an excellent way to tap into those mathematical practices when you're pulling up information and the students are involved in conversation. The children really love this part. This is where they perk up on the edge of their seat because they're waiting to see if their input was the one that was selected. So wonderful job. Well done, class. I see a lot of people are going ahead and they're submitting their responses, and you can get a different look at how so many people approach it. We have people that did use the text feature. We also have people that use the draw it feature. And here's an example where I'm going to take someone's answer and I'm going to be pushing it out to the devices. And this is an example of how you can use someone's misconception or misunderstanding to talk about why this person may have added $2.49 plus 3. And from there, we can talk about what does it mean to estimate and what does it mean if you have 3 apps at $2.49 each. You can simply unshare that. You can push out more examples as you go along. And again, all of this is being recorded and you're going to get a report. So like whiteboards or slate assessments, this is down and you're seeing it. Unlike slate assessments and whiteboards, you're going to have a recording of it and a report so you can go back later to really analyze what the students wrote. Another example of using Draw is the camera feature. Here I had students take pattern blocks and they had to create a design that was demonstrating rotational symmetry. So they simply took their device, took a snapshot of it, and submitted that. We are going to talk about the store in a little bit, as well as creating your own Nearpods. But before we do that, I just want to end the Nearpod presentation portion of the broadcast with a quick quiz. And this is a great example of how you can use Nearpod quick quiz for an exit ticket. So at this time, if you can answer the question, how many free and paid Nearpod presentations are currently available to download?
One of the questions that has come in is after a student submits an answer, can they change that answer?
So, Brittany, would you like to talk about that?
What was it? Could you repeat?
After a student submits an answer, are they able to change an answer?
So, in the live version, no, but we also offer the homework version where they can go back and change their answers and review their work.
Okay, thank you very much.
There was also a similar question about having the teacher have students change their answer, and the teacher is able to go back a screen. Students can resubmit an answer, and it will record both responses.
You've done that, right?
I have.
Yeah. Jean and I use this quite often, so we've experienced that as well. All right, so let's see how the responses, and Brittany, is that coming up right? Are we back to screen sharing with the actual quiz? Okay, yeah, it's good. All right, so now what I'm going to do is, again, the broadcast is showing the teacher version. So the students aren't getting the feedback yet, but with simply hitting the share or clicking on the share, the students get immediate feedback. They get the pie chart, they see how they did, and they can scroll down to answers and they can tell whether or not they had it correct or what the answer was. So it's individualized. Whoops, there we go. There we go. It's individualized and it gives them immediate feedback. What more can a teacher want? All right. I think we're done with that portion of it. So thank you very much with your participation in the Nearpod part of the presentation. And what we're going to do now is move on to the actual accounts.
So I was wondering if Josh or Brittany, if you can talk about the different accounts that Nearpod offers to anybody who is a member.
Sure.
So Nearpod is free to download, which is called a Silver Edition. We also offer the upgrade to a Gold Edition, which allows for much more storage space, more usage. You have access to many more of the features. You have unlimited access to homework feature. With a Silver Edition, you do just have a free trial with that. Also, if there are 5 teachers or more that are willing to sign up for Nearpod and want to upgrade to a better account, we have what's called a School Edition and District Edition. So that gives more space for storage. You can have a shared or private library where it's shared between all the teachers in that school or district. You can have up to 100 students per live session, or districts up to 200, which is much higher than the Basic Edition. And also much better reporting tools. So aside from access to all the features, the reporting tools are a little bit more useful. You can download the students' reports in the format of an Excel rather than just a PDF.
Great.
And Josh, I'm going to hand this over to you. Can you talk about some of the bragging rights that Nearpod has at this time?
Sure. So to pat ourselves on the back a little bit, as the quiz question mentioned, we have over 1,800 lessons in our content store. Some are free, some are paid, and they're created by some of our wonderful Nearpod authors, one of which is Diane, and they're also created with some of our content partners. You may have heard of CK12. They produce awesome STEM content. ReadWorks, LearnZillion, Time for Kids. So we partner with both educational publishers, but also just awesome teachers who we've seen sharing great lessons, and we kind of leverage that to get their lessons into our content store. We have over 1.5 million students accessing the platform every month, and we also have 900,000 teachers who are signed up to use Nearpod.
That's pretty impressive, Josh. Thank you. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead to my Nearpod account, and you will see what I see as the teachers. So in Nearpod, on the home screen, you have a variety of choices. So we're going to move first to Explore. As Josh mentioned, there is a store that, oops, there we go, that has over 2,000 different lessons available. Some of them are free, some of them are paid, and they're ready to be used in your classroom. The categories include Common Core, subject, grade, author, and certified teacher. And with that, I know last week, I'm not sure if it's still running, but they were so generous because every so often there's some free downloads that they're offering. So I believe they were offering 10 free downloads on normally paid presentations. So what I'm doing now is I'm going over to the tag and I'm showing you all the different categories. And as I mentioned earlier, there are certified publishers that have content in there. One of my favorites, of course, is LearnZillion. If you are familiar with LearnZillion and you like LearnZillion, you will love LearnZillion on Nearpod, because what they've done is that they've integrated the interactive features with LearnZillion and Nearpod, and it really brings it to the next level. So that's usually something that I enjoy doing with my own students. So from Explore, what I'd like to do now is go over to Create. Now, Gina and I were talking about this, and we decided that we were not going to spend too much time on Create, only because that could be another half-hour broadcast. What the good part of this is, as Brittany will probably tell us later, there are so many self-paced tutorials that are available, and the Nearpod folks are extremely helpful, that it's really something that's very teacher-friendly and easy to manage. And I think, Jean, you were sharing with me how supportive they were.
Yeah, I had a problem not so long ago, and they very quickly were responding to my emails, and the problem was resolved in during the time that I was actually presenting the lesson. That's how quick they were with their responses. Very helpful.
And that's not very common, so
No, it's not.
it was refreshing to know that even if there are problems, they're right there to help you, and they've been fabulous. Brittany, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we have a support team working all day. You can always feel free to send an email to support@nearpod.com or send us a tweet and someone will get back to you usually right away. Sometimes we'll take an hour or so, but we're always there. So that is a nice support system. As well, if you would like to learn more about Nearpod yourself or train yourself to do things a little bit better or spark some creativity, you can go to nearpod.com/help or nearpod.com/share, and in both of these pages you will find some self-paced tutorials on how to use Nearpod and some best practices.
Okay, great.
I've also seen, I visit a lot of teacher blogs, and I know that Josh is always also looking at them because he's responding to teachers that say are using Nearpod, and he is offering his assistance. And again, that doesn't happen very often where people are actually coming to you.
I think, Josh, I think you're a Nearpod stalker. But that's a good thing. Because it's, again, to have someone from the company right there to lend a helping hand speaks volumes. So kudos to you guys. So the last thing that I did want to talk about, we have just a few minutes left, and I'll be very brief, are the reports in Nearpod. You saw it earlier on the home screen that you can access reports. So everything that occurs during a presentation is available to you either in PDF form or you can have that emailed to you. You also can email the results to individual students and even parents so that they can see how the session went. So I thought that was pretty cool. All right. So at this time, do we have any questions?
Yeah, we do have a couple of questions about if Nearpod can be used on tablets. It is available on tablets. It's available on iPad. It can be used on the computer. So you really, any devices that you have available to you, you can use Nearpod with. We also have a question about Nearpod using audio when you are not present. So like in the situation of when you were using Nearpod with a substitute, if audio is available, if you want to answer that.
Or how about Brittany or Josh? You want to talk about the audio portion?
Yes, so you can add audio to any content slide. So you can add a slide that you've created and just add an audio on top, whether it be you speaking or something else. You can also upload videos directly to Nearpod or through to YouTube and bring the YouTube video to Nearpod. This way there's many ways to communicate with the students through the Nearpod lesson.
Okay.
So one of the things that we talked about, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
One of the things that we were talking about with like how should you get started, and one of the things that I did when I first learned about Nearpod, I hadn't completely bought into it yet. I wanted to see how it was, how my students were, how they responded to it. So right. I went on to, after I created my account, I went on, I actually downloaded several of the free lessons. I went through, and that's how I started. I put out those free lessons, and I used those in my with my class, and I saw how they were so excited and
engaged and so motivated. We were watching one of the broadcasts yesterday, and something that was brought out was that with technology, behavior and discipline reports have decreased dramatically, and I couldn't agree with that more, because really children or students might get in trouble when they are not engaged in the lesson. They're off task, and that's when they usually get into trouble. But if they're engaged in the task and they're involved and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, no problem there.
So once I had used a few free lessons and saw the value in using this app with my students, that's when I started creating my own, and I've tweaked them over time. And that's the nice thing, is that it's never a done deal. Once you have created something, if there's some things that you want to tweak and add later, it's always an option.
It's a work in progress, and you just simply go to the edit part of it, and then when you take out, remove, or add, then you hit publish again, and boom, it's there within seconds. So I have literally switched things around seconds before I've presented.
And so I think that's one of the nice things, is that you can kind of get your feet wet by using some of the free presentations first, and because it's a little daunting to try and create your own initially, and it's nice to see some ideas that others have used in their presentations as well.
Josh, can you tell us a little bit about, your end? You've been a teacher, and any advice you have for folks that want to get started with their own presentations?
Yeah, I think that sometimes it can be a little daunting when adopting new technology, because there's almost the mindset, or at least I had it, that was kind of all or nothing. Like, I'm either going to switch to Nearpod for all of my lessons every day of the week, or I'm going to teach without any technology. But of course there's little stepping stones toward either adopting it for a full lesson or all the time, and you don't have to do that. You can perhaps incorporate one drawing activity. So as a science teacher, I would run an experiment, maybe have the students balance a chemical equation and then perform that reaction in class. Well, on Nearpod, with the Draw It feature, while they are performing the experiment, they can take a picture of what's going on and then annotate over it and describe. And that can be your Nearpod lesson for the day. You can just have that one single activity. You can use it to get students' brains working, or to start a discussion at the beginning of class. You can use it as a formative assessment at the end of class or in the middle of class to check for understanding. So there's a bunch of different ways to use it, and it does not necessarily have to be the whole lesson from beginning to end. So maybe start to think about that. That might be a good entry point for a lot of people.
Good. I have one more question for you, Josh. Rachel actually asked this question. It says, if you embed a YouTube video in a Nearpod session, will students be able to see even if YouTube is blocked by the school district?
That's a good question. I don't think so. One workaround to that would be to download the YouTube video. There are a bunch of, if you just Google YouTube downloaders, there are a bunch of different programs that'll download the video for you, and then you can upload the YouTube video to Nearpod. So if there is content that's blocked, especially video content, that's a way to get around that. We don't bypass school web filters. We still apply because we're connected through the school servers, so we can't really avoid that. But that is one way to get around it, would be to download it from YouTube and then upload it to Nearpod.
Okay.
We have time for one more question. And actually, this is a good idea. Marcia asked, could you use this as on a field trip tour with questions that students ask along the way? I think that's a great way of using technology. As long as they have internet access, and if they have it on a smartphone, I think that would be a great way of using Nearpod.
What a great idea, and this is just an example of just thinking out of the box and just the variety of and differentiation that you can bring to your lessons, even when you're not in the classroom. So again, it takes a whole new spin on flipping the classroom.
Okay, Brittany, I think you have an exciting giveaway for us.
Yes, so for all the participants today, we want to do a raffle and give away 3 one-year subscriptions to our Gold account on Nearpod. As I mentioned before, you'll have a lot more storage space, access to all the features. You can do unlimited homeworks, everything. So to do that, what the best idea would be is to send a tweet to Diane with your Nearpod username. So her Twitter handle, because it's not showing up on the bottom of the screen at the moment, is the @ Leonie Diane, LeoniDianne. So feel free to send a tweet over to her with your Nearpod username, or if you don't have Twitter, feel free to send an email to support@nearpod.com. Let us know that you want to enter the raffle from this hangout, and we will see who wins and announce it on Twitter and send you an email and the upgrade.
Great. Well, I want to thank Josh and Brittany for joining us. It's great to have people right from Nearpod here with us today, and we want to thank everyone for participating. We hope that you gained some knowledge about Nearpod and how you can use it in your classroom. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.